Imagine living in a world that's literally being torn apart over religious certainty. And in the middle of all that, one doctor secretly writes down his own, very different ideas about faith, reason, and the universe. Well, that's what we're diving into today. The story of Religio Medici, a private journal that was never meant to be published, but ended up becoming a sensation that challenged the very idea of absolute dogma. And right from the get-go, Browne hits us with this incredible statement. Now, you have to remember, this is the 17th century, an age of brutal religious wars, where absolute dogma was basically law. With just this one line, he's signaling, hey, this isn't another rigid theological textbook. He's inviting us to think differently, to embrace nuance and mystery over cold, hard, rigid reason. So, who was this guy? And how on earth did his private journal, something he just wrote for his own satisfaction, end up causing such a massive stir all across Europe? You know, the crazy part is, this book was never meant to see the light of day. Browne wrote it for himself, kind of like a personal diary of his thoughts. But he shared it with a friend, and, well, you know how these things go. It got copied, and copied again, and pretty soon, bootleg and badly corrupted versions were being sold. He was pretty much forced to publish an official version just to set the record straight. And just like that, his most private thoughts were out in a world that was both hungry for and deeply suspicious of new ideas. This was the central question on everyone's mind. Browne himself even mentioned the general scandal of my profession. You see, there was this common saying at the time, where there are 3 physicians, there are 2 atheists. The assumption was that science and faith just couldn't mix. And yet, Browne wasn't an atheist at all. Far from it. He had this deeply personal and profound Christian faith that just fascinated and kind of confused everyone around him. So how did he do it? How did this man of medicine and science reconcile his day job with his deeply held faith? Well, he solved this apparent conflict with a single, really beautiful and elegant concept. For Browne, it was simple. There was no conflict. Studying the intricate, amazing workings of the natural world, that wasn't a distraction from God. No, that was a direct path to understanding his wisdom and his art. For him, science wasn't a rival to faith. It was, in its own way, a form of worship. And the way he framed this is just perfect. He saw divinity everywhere. Of course, you have Scripture, the first book from God, but then you have nature, which he called a universal and public manuscript, open for absolutely everyone to read. He even wrote that we can find wonders in the cosmography of myself, basically saying that studying our own bodies, human anatomy, was for him a form of worship. And this is the key takeaway, right? For Browne, using our intellect, our God-given reason, to study the world wasn't just okay to do, it was a duty. It was a debt we owed to God. It was the very thing that separated us from the animals and the whole point of human consciousness. So this unique worldview, this belief in God's 2 books, well, it led Browne to a conclusion that was, frankly, shocking and radical for his time. Tolerance. Just think about how wild this was for a second. He's writing this while Europe is literally tearing itself apart over differences of opinion. But Browne, he championed this profound kind of intellectual charity, refusing to hate or condemn people of other faiths just because their judgment didn't happen to line up with his own. I mean, his whole argument was that English Protestantism had reformed from the Catholic Church, not against it. He recognized this one common name they all shared as Christians. So while everyone else was busy slinging insults, calling the Pope the Antichrist and all that, Browne just refused to play the game. He wouldn't engage in those usual satyrs and invectives. So how could he be so comfortable with all this gray area in an age that was so black and white? Well, his answer was this amazing balance of authority and personal conscience. Where the church or the Bible gave clear guidance, he followed it. But as he wrote, where they were silent, he wouldn't just blindly follow the rules from Rome or Geneva. Nope, he'd follow the dictates of my own reason. And that was a powerful stance, prizing intellectual freedom over blind obedience. But this intellectual honesty wasn't just something he applied to other people. Oh no, Browne was also incredibly, almost shockingly, open about his own internal struggles with his faith. Absolutely, and he freely admitted it. Browne talked about wrestling with doubts he called heresies, but here's the thing. He didn't see them as a crisis of faith. He saw them as an essential part of an active intellectual and spiritual life. For him, a faith that isn't questioned,
Well, that isn't really a faith at all. But what's really fascinating is how he talked about these doubts. He called them single lapses of my understanding, not a depravity of my will. He would entertain these ideas, wrestle with them, and then let them go. He made this crucial distinction. An error of the mind is not the same as a sin of the heart.
You know, as a doctor, Browne saw death up close all the time, but he wasn't really afraid of it. He was ashamed of it. He called it a disgrace to our human nature. He looked at it less with terror and more with this calm, philosophical curiosity, seeing it as the ultimate transition, the moment you become, within one instant, of a spirit. Okay, so all of this, his ideas about science, faith, tolerance, and doubt, it all builds to what is maybe his most beautiful and unifying idea. It's a concept that ties together science, spirit, humanity, and the entire universe. Now, this microcosm idea was pretty popular back then, but Browne, of course, put his own unique spin on it. For him, man is the great and true amphibium. Think about it, an amphibious creature. He believed our nature is built to live not just in different elements, but in two completely different worlds at once. The visible, material world we see, and the invisible, spiritual one. And this is just a brilliant picture of his whole worldview, isn't it? He believed that in a single human being, you could see the entire ladder of creation. We have the dull existence of rocks, the life of plants, the senses of animals, the reason of man, and even a spark of the spiritual life of angels. It all connects right inside of us. And really, this is the mic drop. This is Browne's ultimate takeaway. If nature is the art of God, and if every human being is a microcosm containing all of nature, then to study either one, whether it's science or scripture, the world around you or the world inside you, is to study the divine. There is no conflict. There's only connection. So, 400 years later, in our own age of rigid certainties and online echo chambers, Browne's private thoughts feel more relevant than ever. They challenge us to embrace that same intellectual charity, to find wisdom in nuance, and to ask ourselves, are we looking for truth in just one book when there is an entire universe of art just waiting to be read?